I'll do one more example. The example is something I've been dealing with last few weeks. We have an app which has a backend, a mobile app, and a web app. So these are like three sub projects within the main project, and all of them are developed in TypeScript. The backend is developed in nest.js. The mobile app is developed in React Native / Expo, and the web app is developed in React. So there's a desire in some cases to share TypeScript definitions among the three projects, and developers so far have been doing this ... up to the parent project level and then going back in, and usually they pull interfaces out of the backend project, right? Maybe the mobile app will pull in some interfaces that were defined in the backend project and stuff like that, because the data shape is there, right? And they don't want to duplicate the code. But it only works for the type definitions that don't require any JavaScript to be emitted. So notably, it doesn't work for enums. Because enums require JavaScript to be emitted in order to work. We just got stuck. We don't know how to do this. And then we did research about how to do this, and I actually tried multiple ways. I did like experimental approaches, multiple ones, maybe 4 or 5. Basically, the problem is concerning TypeScript, right? There's a TypeScript compiler, but the TypeScript compiler is embedded inside of another framework. But we have 3 frameworks, not just one. We have a nest.js framework in one case. In another case, we have a React Native / Expo framework. And in another case, we have a Create React App framework. Each one handles TypeScript differently. Each one has a different way of handling TypeScript compilation. And the tools are, embedded within the larger framework. So I actually dug into each one to look at how they wired up things internally, more or less, and I uncover interesting things. So nest.js, for example, it just uses the TypeScript compiler directly, and that was the easiest one to configure to do what I wanted it to do. The React Create app one, the web-based app, that internally it uses Webpack. So React has this notion of eject, right? Have you heard about the eject?
No, what is that?
We might have to do another episode just about eject, because I have a lot of thought about the concept of eject. React Create app has Webpack pre-configured in a very specific way. And they don't give you a way to change that configuration. However, they have, I believe this is how it happened. They probably got complaints from the community that but I really need to customize this thing. Why are you not letting me do that? So I think then they added this feature called eject. So if you press the eject button, the way you do it is you npm run eject, and then you eject. When you eject, you're basically no longer using the React Create app framework after you reject. But what it'll end up doing is spit out a whole bunch of Webpack configuration and other configuration file, and also scripts that you would run instead of running it through their tools. So they'll spit out like 3 Node.js scripts. Like the start script, the build script, and then the test script. And then you would run those Node.js scripts instead, and you're not dependent on React Create app. So that's sort of the compromise that they reached with the people that really want to customize things. I have more thoughts about the concept of eject, but I'm gonna skip it for now. But well, the community then figured out that we added on tools to allow you to customize certain things without needing to eject.
That's what Angular does. We have to do this to our Angular project, which is we need to slightly modify the Webpack configuration. So in Angular, there's the Angular.json, and there are configurations that you can just add your own Webpack configuration, but it's an add-on. It's not like you can just do everything yourself.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious that in order to customize it, you have to add an add-on first. But anyway, I tried a symlink approach. I thought, hey, I could just create a symlink and then have each sub-project have a symlink direct.
What is symlink?
Oh, what is symlink? Symlink is a symbolic link. It's like a pointer. It's a directory pointer on your file system. You can create an imaginary directory that in reality is a pointer to another directory.
Okay.
So my thought is like each subproject would have a subdirectory, which is an imaginary pointer to an outer directory.
Okay.
That is like the shared folder of source code that's shared between the three projects. And at first I thought it worked, but then it only worked for one of those three setups. And then for the two other setups, I had to do extra work to either get it to work. Like for the React Native setup, it turns out React Native doesn't use Webpack. And instead, Facebook decided to create their own bundler called Metro, specifically for native apps. So I dug into the Metro, and it turns out Metro uses a file crawler from Jest, the test framework. And so I dug into those things. I was able to figure out how to hack their source code to get symlinks to work. But even after that, I decided that's not worth it because like, what are the chances I'm gonna get them to take my changes? For the Metro case, basically, I used a custom plugin. The Metro allows you to configure it. Metro is better about configuration than the React stuff. So there's a way to plug in a module resolver. And then so when it's trying to module this module, I just redirect it to my common library directory. I can do that. So basically, that was like a really, really long journey. It was a little bit extreme, but I guess the summary is all we were trying to do was reuse some TypeScript definitions between three projects. And it's actually very, very non-trivial. Now, there's a mono repo enabler project called NX. They're calling themselves Smart Extensible Build Framework. Like we could have bootstrapped our project using NX, and then basically all the digging that I had to go through, the people that made NX, they did that and more. They did all of the pain that I was going through, and they figure out how to integrate with each main framework that's in the community. And so if you want a mono repo is what they call it, like a larger project that can house multiple smaller projects like this, and it's in the JavaScript ecosystem, they will do that wiring up for you, like the wiring up that I did with Metro, for example. I stole the technique from NX because those people have figured it out before me.
So is this abstraction too?
Yes, and that's kind of the thing. It's like it's really funny actually if you think about it, because the problem that we faced is that the frameworks have leaky abstractions, and it was painful to sort of customize those things because I had to dig into the internals of each one of the big frameworks. And the solution that NX provides is, hey, don't worry about it. You don't have to do that because I will make that all easy for you. And guess what? What happens if NX doesn't work, like for whatever reason? What if there's a leaky abstraction in NX, which I'm sure there will be? Then you're like, okay, now what do I do? Not only will I have to understand what NX is doing, how NX works, but I will also have to understand the framework that NX is trying to abstract away from you, so that you don't have to know the internal. I have to know even more. Or most people at this point, they would just give up. They will do something else. They'll probably like say, you know what, let's use Go. Let's use Rust when we're not going to do this anymore.